Okay, you are live. Welcome everyone to our Moshiach Matters class. And let's get started. A lot of crazy stuff going on in the world right now. It's not the time to go into it. But God willing, I will start doing more classes connected to current events, what's happening in the world, and what it means as it's connected to the deeper reality of the world, to Hasidus, Kabbalah, mystical Judaism, and of course the full and final redemption, which we are moments and moments away from. All of the things that are happening in the world are clearly signs of redemption. We are literally so close to the full and final redemption. As the Rebbe has already told us, we've already started the process of Geula, but we're not there. We're not fully there, but we're on the way. So let's get started and get inside the Sikha and focus on our Mashiach class for this evening. We are in Parshas Emor. And let's get started. Okay. Aleph. Behemshek hamadubar al derek inyan ha'geula. And a continuation of what we've been speaking about connected to the redemption. Just a reminder before we get too deep into the Sikha, as we've spoke about numerous times, these are from the Kuti Sikhas, collectively referred to as Devar Malchus. These are the most recent speeches, talks we have from the Rebbe. And for an entire year, from basically Parshas Vayikra in Nun Aleph 1991 until V'Yakal Pekude in Nun Beis 1992, a whole year of Sikhas. The Rebbe hyper-focused his talks on everything about Mashiach and Geula. He mentioned to us a couple parshas ago in Tazria Metzora that the best way to prepare for Mashiach and enter into Mashiach consciousness is to learn about Mashiach, especially from the teachings of the leader of the generation, which is what we're doing. So when we tune in here, realize we're following the Rebbe's directives on doing the most important thing that we can do to bring about the redemption, and that starts with changing our consciousness from exile consciousness to Mashiach consciousness. So let's continue. And a continuation is what has been spoke about the redemption. Shahamila geula, osios gola, b'tosefes aleph. And we have said numerous times of recent that the word exile and the word redemption are the exact same letters, gimel, vav, lamed, hey. The only difference is the addition of an aleph from gola or exile to geula or redemption. Margish es hatochen ha'geula. And this is emphasizing the idea, the substance of redemption. Aleph, ha'geula b'kol inyanei ha'galus. Geula lo sholeles es ha'avoda b'galus. First of all, the redemption is going to encompass and include all of the good work we did in the time of the exile. A lot of people have this fear that Mashiach's going to come along and they're going to lose all their money, they're going to lose all their good deeds, they're going to lose all the things that they've done. And it's the complete opposite, as the Rebbe explains. Nothing that we have done, no positive things that we've done in the times of the exile will be nullified. In fact, the exile is going to be encompassed into the redemption, all the positive things we've done. So rather, what's going to happen is we're going to elevate and bring out the good aspects of this exile by entering and revealing the Aleph. And who is Aleph? Alufo Shel Olam, literally referring to God, into Gola, into the exile. How that Hashem is the ruler and conducts every aspect of all matters of the world, also in the times of the exile. So just to pause a second, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. Of course, our focus is on what's happening with our people here in Israel. There's a lot of discussions right now. Baruch Hashem, one of the hostages was released. There's, of course, tremendous joy because of that. On the other hand, there's tremendous concern that this hostage that was released has an American passport, and therefore the administration in America was really only focused on that because he's an American, which you can't necessarily blame them because they're here to protect America. And there's a lot of discussions about Bibi and Trump, and that there's a rift, and that It is kind of strange that Trump is going to the Middle East right now to go to the UAE, to go to Saudi Arabia, and to go to Qatar, and yet not visit his only ally in the Middle East, which is Israel. And there's a lot of unknowns right now. But we always have to pause in whatever's going on in the world and realize exactly what the Rebbe is saying right now. God is the Balabayat of the world, meaning that God is conducting the world. I'm going to just make a simplified example. Let's say the entire world is in God's hand, like this. Inside that hand, you have all these nations, you have all these things, you have rulers, you have leaders, you have wars, you have currencies, you have politics, you have all these things maneuvering around. And those people and everyone does have free choice, and there are decisions being made. Some are in accordance with God's will, some are against God's will. But in the end of the day, they're all encompassed in God's hand. And if it's so God's will, in 1 second, all the hostages could be released. The end could come to the war. The end could come to the Gullus, and Mashiach could come like this. In fact, the Rebbe says Mashiach will come b'keref ayin, meaning in the blink of an eye, meaning when you least expect it. So don't ever despair. Don't ever start freaking out and panicking and Trump and Bibi and this and Qatar and like. Yes, we should be aware of what's going on in the world, and yes, we should put efforts into trying to understand. But the majority of our efforts need to be put on improving ourselves, our families, and our communities, because that's ultimately where we have the biggest sphere of influence. Very few people have any influence outside of what our immediate circles are. I don't want to go too far off topic, but at one point in time, there was a new prime minister in Israel, and someone went before the Rebbe who was a pretty, whatever, he was an important person, and he was explaining, expressing his frustration about this new prime minister. And the Rebbe asked him, "Do you happen to know the prime minister personally?" And he said, "No, I don't." He said, "Do you know anyone in the prime minister's cabinet directly?" He said, "No, I don't." He said, "Do you have any influence over him?" He says, "I do not." He said, the Rebbe said, "So why are you wasting your time being frustrated about what he's doing or not doing? It's better to take your energy and your time and focus on what you can do in your own community to bring Mashiach there." And that's really what this comes down to. Shalom Aleichem. That's ultimately we have to focus on in these final moments of the exile of what we can do and how we can improve the world in our worlds and the worlds around us, because that's really all we can do. We don't have influence over political figures, and it's kind of a waste to get all bent out of shape, even though we all do it, and I do it also. So anyways, the Rebbe says, first of all, to realize that God is the Baal Bayit. God is running the world, meaning there's no one or nothing in this world that has any influence over God. And ultimately, the entire world is in God's hands, and ultimately, everything is being directed towards the ultimate culmination of redemption according to God's will. That doesn't mean that every leader is doing what God wants them to do, and many people are going against God's will. And for whatever reason, we don't understand, God allows these things to occur and to happen. But to never ever be despaired, because God is running the world. Secondly, base. Ha'geula na'asiyas aydei avoda b'galus. V'roiv oisias haim oisias gola eleb tosefes aleph. That the redemption is really connected to our service in the times of the exile. Meaning, Shalom Aleichem, that we are the ones who are responsible for ultimately what is going to take place in our individual lives. So we're not meant to be spectators. It's important that we do everything we can to increase our awareness of Mashiach and Geula, and to do whatever we can to bring good into the world. Right? That's one of the Rebbe's most famous slogans. Many times people would ask the Rebbe what to do to bring Geula, to bring redemption. And the Rebbe would often respond, add in deeds of goodness and kindness. In other words, don't be a spectator. Don't sit around and criticize and this one and that one and that one. Do something. Go out. Help someone. Give some charity to a poor person. Do something to improve the situation in your home, in your lives, in the world around you. And that's how we can start bringing redemption to ourselves and to the world around us. Okay, continuing inside. Nisakev al oid kama nekodos bezeh. Shezeh moisech hasvara. And therefore, the Rebbe explains, in many different points. We have to add on to the service of the Jewish people that is necessary to bring about where we're holding right now in the threshold of redemption. In other words, as we are facing the threshold of redemption, our focus, as we just pointed out, needs to be on what we can be doing to help hasten the redemption in our lives and in the world in general. Base. That's a chiddush of geula. Roy miyad geula rishayna, geula Mitzrayim. So the original exile was into Egypt. It's beyond the scope of tonight's class to go into the details of it, but one of the main original exiles, when it says going into Egypt, it means that the souls from above came down into this physical world, into a physical body, and had to deal with the challenges of this world. That is one aspect. The other aspect is that we were enslaved in Egypt. It was supposed to be 400 years. It wound up being 210 years. But the concept that when we went out of Egypt, so the going out of Egypt, which we just celebrated in the Pesach holiday, which was done through the leader at that time was Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, that opened up the gate, if you will. It would open up the channel for all future redemptions. So that very first redemption of going out of Egypt made possible all these future redemptions. And of course, we know that what's going to make this redemption different than the other ones is there will be no more exile. There will be no more galut, as we say, after this. It will be the full and final redemption. The third temple will never be destroyed. And that's why it is so important in these final moments to do everything we can to bring this about. Okay. Geula is batas b'zeh shenoisef al zeh shekol b'nei Yisrael yetzias Mitzrayim. That the redemption is expressed in addition to what the concept of the Jewish people when they went out from Egypt. B'shleimos v'ayam kol hafsihem, the kahu oisam v'gola es eninim goila. Yisha'alo miMitzrayim kli kesef v'kli zahav. Shma alois. It's known that when the Jewish people went out from Egypt, God transformed that the very captors that were holding them in place, the Egyptians, literally sent them off and they asked them to leave. They said, please go. Not only that, take our stuff, take our silver vessels, our gold vessels, our clothing. We want to give it to you. We want to give you as much as possible. In other words, once they saw that God was with them and that God was in the process of redeeming them, it says that the Egyptians, the Jews found favor in the eyes of the Egyptians, so much that they went into a panic. I wouldn't necessarily say the Egyptians had a change of heart and said, wow, we now love the Jewish people, but it was more a sense of fear of, wow, we've been enslaving these people for hundreds of years. And now we see that God really is with them and God really is taking them out, kind of damage control. Let's do everything possible that we want to help them. And that's what happened. And in fact, it says the same thing is going to happen in the true and complete redemption, that those that are holding the Jewish people captive, those that are practicing open anti-Semitism and doing these horrific things are going to go into a state of panic when they realize that God is in fact with us. He's always been with us. It's all been a giant test. And as soon as they see God opening up his hand and going through the process of redeeming us, you're going to see a huge shift in the way people speak and act towards the Jewish people. That the redemption was not only going out from Egypt, but rather Egypt itself was also redeemed. In other words, not only were the Jewish people redeemed from Egypt, but the entire nation of Egypt was redeemed from what they were doing. And this all came about through entering and revealing the Aleph. What is Aleph again? Alufu Shalalam. Into the matters of the exile. That's really what redemption is. It's transforming. Judaism is not really a religion. It's been categorized into religion with other religions, but Judaism really is the concept of revealing God in a world that conceals him. This world is in a state of exile, concealment. If we saw God's hand and we saw how God was openly omnipresent in every aspect of our lives, nobody would sin. The goal is to reveal God in a world that conceals him. And once that concept starts coming into effect and that God starts becoming revealed, all of a sudden you have a transformation in how people do things. So Egypt itself became revealed through entering the Aleph, entering God into the matters of the exile. Because the ultimate matter of these things was through Hashem that brought this process of taking us out of exile, that God, in other words, was the one who took us out. In order that the Jewish people should be refined and purified when he took us out of Egypt. It's known that's why we spent so much time in the exile. It was a preparation for the redemption. It was a refinement of our physical bodies and our animal souls. Hashem natain eschein ha'am ve'eni Mitzrayim, as we pointed out a minute ago. Shoalim. It says that God created such a way that the Jewish people were found favorable in the eyes of the Egyptians, and the Egyptians literally gave away their belongings to the Jewish people. They said, please take them, because they found favor in their eyes. In other words, it says that, one second, I lost my place, that the Egyptians themselves, they pushed the Jewish people. They basically said, we want you to take these things. We're giving you our possessions. We want you to go out here, take everything. Their whole perception of what a Jew was shifted before their eyes, because they saw God being revealed through them and being revealed in the world around them. And it caused a whole consciousness shift. So the Rebbe says now, Aleph, Shem ma hamitzraim, it seems like a complete opposite of the nature, where the Egyptians literally rushed and hurried to give the Jewish people all of their things. Said, please, the very slaves that were working for them for over 200 years, all of a sudden they said, don't be our slaves anymore. Take our money, take our stuff, and just go. Get out of here. That's completely against the nature of a person to do such a thing. That's not a normal occurrence for someone to have such a shift in their consciousness. Second, had Sivui, Na'amar the Bnei Yisrael lo b'Mitzrayim. And that the commandment that he said to the Jewish people, not to the Egyptians. In other words, God didn't tell the Egyptians, take the Jewish people out, give them your stuff. He told the commandment was for the Jewish people to go out. Yet the Egyptians themselves were the ones who assisted in that process. And Gimel, and these are questions that the Rebbe has that we're going to address. The after Hashem broke the Egyptians through the 10 plagues, Lamakan Pesoom, Agisha Shah Mitzrayim, Vishalohim Mitzrayim. Why is it at that point that they found favor in their eyes? In other words, how can it be that the very people that God broke with 10 plagues all of a sudden decided, these are the people that we want to help? They found favor in their eyes. Everything shifted. Okay. And because and what is the Rebbe explaining now? That since the redemption was going out from Egypt itself, through the recognition that God himself is the ruler and the Baal Bayit of the world, meaning God himself, what we pointed out before, once the realization comes that there is only one real and true God, the very God that created the world, the very God of the Jewish people that sent us into exile and is taking us out, there will be a giant consciousness shift in everyone in the world. God is concealed. The Hebrew word for concealment is helem. It's the same root of ha'olam, which is world. This is a world that conceals God. When Mashiach comes, God will be revealed. We are now in the process of that transformation where God is starting to become revealed to the world. And again, the more that happens, the more you will notice a complete shift in people's belief systems and in the way they're conducting themselves and acting towards one another. המצרים הבינו והדגישו זאת וידוע מצרים כי אני הוויה, because they realized I am God. Once they saw the truth, I mean, we can understand what it means that these were 10 open plagues, that God literally, transformed the nature of the world around. It became obvious at that point in time, especially after the final one, after the killing of the firstborn, when Pharaoh's sorcerers could not replicate that in any way, shape, or form. They all said, wow, send these people out of here. God really is with them. But Paul not that the Egyptians were no longer, they weren't forced. God didn't say, give the Jewish people your stuff. He just said to the Jewish people, I'm taking you out, go out. So they changed their own will. They wanted to assist the Jewish people to go out. They wanted to help them to go out, and they wanted to give them all their stuff. Because once again, they realized God was with them. Again, we're going to talk about this edition, how the word of exile and the word of redemption are the same, except for one letter, which is Aleph, which is representing God himself. Excuse me. Specifically through going into the exile of Egypt, Nifal, Elias, Mitzrayim. This brought about the redemption from going out of Egypt. I lost my space. In such a way that they went out with a big publicity and a big fanfare. It wasn't concealed. It wasn't hidden. It wasn't like in the middle of the night. Okay, God said, let's get out. Let's find a sneak. Let's find a way to sneak out so no one sees us. It was wide and completely open. And for this, we could also understand the connection to the redemption, the true and complete redemption. As we pointed out, the first redemption from Egypt opened up the stage and the pipe and the potential for all the future redemptions to come. It's just like our sages teach us, just like when I took you out of Egypt, I will once again show you wonders. And this is why it's called redemption. Why? Aleph. The Geolas. As Eni Hagola, that the redemption will elevate all the matters of the exile. As we said, all of the good deeds, all of the things we've worked on are not going to disappear. They're going to be encompassed into the redemption. And based, that specifically through our work now, this is what brings us into the redemption. In other words, your work in the exile sets the stage for how things are going to be for you in the future redemption. Okay, Gimel. So we need to understand. In addition to the fact that the Jewish people were redeemed from Egypt, and this was caused by revealing how God is really the ruler of the world in Egypt, they saw that themselves, because it came known that I am Hashem, I am God. And that the world was not run by Pharaoh, it wasn't run by the Egyptians, that they were living in a very small, limited state of consciousness. A lot of people think that whatever their belief system is, that's the reality. So they take a belief, whatever it may be, and they lock it in their brain, and they operate their entire worldview based on a little tiny speck of what they think is reality. And when God pulls the thing back, and you see there's a much huger reality than what you're aware of, and you start becoming aware of a bigger godly reality in the world, that brought that consciousness into the Egyptians. And they said, wait a minute, we thought that we were just going to spend the rest of our lives enslaving Jewish people and forcing them to work and beat them when they didn't work for the rest of their lives and just profit from them and not pay them anything. And they thought everything was on cruise control. And then one day, boom, God showed them that it's not. So, Shakodesh Baruch Hu Abalabai, that God is the ruler of the world. Nifal Gam Inina Alis Yosef. Nigala Lehem Melech Malachim HaKodesh Baruch Hu. And the King of Kings, blessed be He, God Himself, revealed Himself to the Egyptians. In His very essence and His very glory. In other words, there was no doubts. There was no doubt in anyone's mind. We're not talking about multiple religions who all of a sudden one day and said, yeah, okay, God spoke to this prophet or He spoke to that prophet. We're talking about God Himself revealed Himself to an entire nation. To all of the Egyptians and to 600,000 Jews on Mount Sinai when He gave us the Torah. This wasn't an isolated event with one person that no one could verify. You're talking about hundreds of thousands, millions of people witnessed this. So you could imagine what that is like if you can actually see and perceive that God runs the world, how it would shift your entire awareness of what you previously thought was reality. And the entire purpose was to give us the Torah. The reason God took us out of Egypt was to bring us to Har Sinai and give us the Torah so that we can now serve Hashem and serve a higher purpose and realize our true potential of coming into the world. And that's why it says, I am Hashem your God, the one who took you out from Egypt. Another word, Egyptian magician. I am the Egyptian magician. In other words, God's basically telling the Jewish people, listen, you saw me take you out from Egypt. You saw me give you the Torah. You're aware that I exist. So now when I'm giving you 613 commandments, 613 mitzvot, I'm teaching you, I'm showing you the way to conduct your lives. There should be no doubt in your mind that this is my will because you already saw me take you out from Egypt and give you the Torah. And God spoke face to face to 600,000 Yid. Above from the revelation of God being the ruler of the worlds. We're going to talk about it in a few minutes, but there's multiple manifestations of how God presents Himself into the world. There's different stages of revelations, different stages of awareness, and different stages of consciousness. So the level that God runs the world is one level of consciousness, but the level that God is completely above the world is a totally different energy, if you will, that is on a much higher spiritual plane. And that's what happened when He gave us the Torah. We saw that openly. That God is the creator of the world, and He conducts the world. Because the Torah preceded the world. That before God created the world, just like a builder, if he decides to build a building, doesn't just start smacking bricks together. He has a blueprint. The architect gives him a blueprint, and from the blueprint, he builds. God created the Torah. The Torah preceded the world by 2,000 years. And God took the Torah as the map and the blueprint, and through the Torah, He created the world. Excuse me. How much more so will all these things be revealed to us in the true and complete redemption? Meaning that the redemption that we are in now, the process that has started now, not just taking us out from Egypt, but eternal redemption. The Jewish calendar now we're in the year 5,785. That means that the full and final redemption will be forever. For thousands of years, we've been struggling as humans, as Jews in this world. And God is about to put an end to all the evil, all the destruction, all the hate, and bring about eternal redemption. So how much more so are we going to see God revealed in this true and complete redemption? In addition to the fact that God will reveal how He's the ruler of the world, it will also be revealed that God is completely above the world, that the world is what we call a levush, or a garment, or something that covers over, just like a set of clothing that God enters into. but by no means is God confined to the world. The world is one aspect of what God has created. Ele told us parrots made and that these are the offspring of parrots, meaning referring to the redemption, and the level of godly awareness that will enter into the world in the times of the redemption will be infinitely greater than the level of godly awareness of the fact that God, in fact, exists in this world and creates the world. עד שיהיה חידוש שלא בערך לגבי מצב הגאולה בכל ומידי וכולו. Where I keep losing my spot. So that it will be something unique and not compared to any situation before the redemption. It will be a whole renewal in creation. God will bring forth a new heaven and a new earth. That this new heaven and this new earth will reveal God. They will no longer conceal God. That's why there'll be no more evil, because God will be open and revealed in the entire world. There'll be no more in a state where we have to guess whether or not God is really here, or we have to work exceptionally hard to reveal him. And it says this will be what we call Gilui Penimis Atik. Atik is from Atik Yomin, Ancient of Days. It's the inner dimension of Keter, which is the highest of the 10 Sphirot, the divine attributes God brought forth to kind of communicate with the world. And the inner aspect of that has never been revealed. Everything that has been revealed so far is what we call is Chetzoni Atik, or Chetzoni Keter, or what is known as Ark Anpin, meaning the level of godly energy from the crown, from the Keter, but the outside part of the crown. The inside part of the crown, that level of godly energy has been tucked away. It says that the God took away, it says in the beginning of the Torah, that he hid away the hidden light for the righteous in the time to come, meaning this tremendous revelation of godliness is still concealed. But it will be revealed when Mashiach comes. That God's very essence will be revealed down here in this physical world. And the entire world will be transformed into a dwelling place down here into the physical world. Okay. And then the entire occupation of the world will only be to know God. And therefore the Jewish people will become great sages, all of them. And we will know all the secret and concealed matters of creation. They will always be within our power to perceive these highest levels of godly energy. And the entire earth will be filled with the knowledge of God, like the waters cover the ocean bed. The Mount Torah. We know that the reason that we had to spend so much time in suffering in Egypt was as a preparation for us to receive the Torah. And the similar idea is happening now. The reason we've been in this current exile for thousands of years, since the destruction of the last temple, is all in preparation for the ultimate and complete redemption, where the innermost dimension of the Torah will be revealed. That's where we're learning right now what is called a foretaste of that. The teachings of Hasidus, Chabad Hasidus, especially connected to Mashiach and Gula, where we're learning right now, are the beginning of the opening of these innermost dimensions of the Torah that will be revealed when Mashiach comes. And then all the secrets will be revealed. Until a new Torah will come out from God, meaning a renewed Torah, the Torah of Geula, the Torah of Mashiach. And similar, all these matters that now are concealed, we're not going to be compared at all to revealing now that God is the ruler of the world, but on a much higher plane. Oisius Alufo Betoisfis Aleph. As we said a moment ago, we're now going to be discussing the revelation of this Aleph. When we said before that Gola and Geula, exile and redemption, are the same word, we're just adding one letter, which is the Aleph, which we've referred earlier said is God Himself. But now the Rebbe is going to discuss this consciousness of this Aleph, this godly consciousness in the multiple levels that will be revealed when Mashiach comes. Dalet. Ois Aleph, the letter Aleph. Shemetoisefis Gola, that is added on exile to form redemption. Yishna Kama Pirushim has many meanings. 1. Aleph Melasham Aluf. Aluf will show Olam, referring to God as the ruler, the chief, the commander of the entire world. Second, Aleph Melasham Alufno Velemud. Alufecha Chokma Alufecha Bina. Aleph is referring to, Alufna Velemud is referring to learning or understanding. So the Fecha Chokma, you will have learned with wisdom and learned in understanding. It's referring to a concept of processing godly information that is in the Torah to bring you into a higher state of godly consciousness. And the third meaning of the Aleph is Elaf Osios Pella. So Aleph is the Hebrew letters of Aleph, Lamed, Pei. If you reverse those, you have Pei, Lamed, Aleph, which is Pella, which is a wonder. The Rebbe explains that a wonder is something higher than a miracle. It's more miraculous than a miracle. There's a miracle, wow, that's a miracle, and wow, that's wondrous. It's beyond comprehension. That's another definition of Aleph. Now we're going to explain those a little bit deeper. And the transformation from exile to redemption encompasses all three of these levels of awareness or consciousness of this letter Aleph. 1. Gilui Elokus b'toch u'be'erech la'olam. The first level is revealing God as He exists in the world. That's what, as we say, Alufo Shel Olam, that God is the master of the world. That we will see and reveal God is present in this world. He is concealed right now, but we will have a revelation of God's presence in the world. And we will see all these challenges, all these difficulties, all the suffering. Everything will be revealed how it was all part of God's plan and all for good. That's the first level of Aleph. The second level, Gilu Elokus Shalamayla Ma'olam, Avol Yesh Lo Eze Erech V'Yachas La'olam. The second is we will be learning Torah in a much deeper way. As we spoke about, it will be a new Torah, a new learning system in the world. And that learning system in the world, the Torah of Mashiach, will reveal how God is completely above the world, but He has a connection to the world. So if this is the world, God exists in a plane that He's completely removed from the world. But through learning Hasidus and the inner dimensions of the Torah that will take place when Mashiach comes, the Torah of Mashiach, we will see how God's energy that is above the world is also connected to the world. The third level, is revealing how God is completely above the world, but in a wondrous, completely removed way. And then the true and complete redemption will have wondrous effects. The whole world will be in a state of awe. And this reveals a level of God. When we say above the world or in the world, we don't mean physically. We mean from an energy standpoint or a conscious standpoint or an awareness standpoint. So all three levels are going to coexist. God as He exists in the world, God above the world as He is connected to the world, and God completely removed from the world. The three definitions of we just said of the letter Aleph. 1. Hadavar Rishon. Let's talk about the first one now. Mizbata begadus b'konini ha'olam, expressing the exile in all matters of the world. How God is literally the ruler and the Balabayit of the world. It's the Aleph Aluf Shel Olam. Ech sheKadosh Baruch Hu Aluf Balabayit Shel Ha'olam Ba'olam. Ha'olam Melashon Helam V'Hester. As we said earlier, the Hebrew word for world is the same root of the Hebrew word for concealment. That God is now concealed, and when Mashiach comes, He will be revealed. We will literally see God's presence in this physical world. Nivra ba'ifin shuhu makise ah elukus. That right now the world covers over godliness. Harava Hashem shema tamid mahaveh mechaya mekayim oisoi. We will see how that through God's speech, He enlivens and allows and creates the world to exist every single moment. Avodah de bnei Yisrael hi legalus ba'olam. As we said earlier, and the main service of the Jewish people in this world is to reveal in the world how God is really in charge of the world. That even though the world conceals God, it doesn't mean that that God doesn't exist in the world. So even though God is in a state of concealment in the world, our main work, every time we say our bracha before we eat, every time we daven, every time we give tzedakah, every time we learn Torah, we're revealing godly energy in the world. And the more it becomes revealed, the more we will start to palpably feel and sense God. And of course, when Mashiach comes, we will see this godly energy manifesting into the world. Hein b'klalos olam v'hein b'prati olam, including the world in general and all the specific details of the world. Ki arza shemecha maseh avosecha yirech kochavim asher chana. That God moves all the stars, all the planets, everything in creation. When scientists can't explain a phenomenon, they call it nature. Nature means we have no idea how this happens, so we'll just put a stamp on it and say, oh, it's nature. How do you put a seed in the ground and a plant comes up? That's nature. How is it that the stars come out at night and the sun at night and I'm sorry, the moon at night, the sun by day, and the birds and the clouds and all the planets and all the galaxies and everything exists, and there's gravity that doesn't allow anything to bang into each other? That's nature. It's not nature, it's God. God conceals himself in such a way that it appears to be nature. So what's going to happen is that godly energy that is now concealed will become revealed. And the whole world will realize, wow, that's how the entire world functions all the time, because God is making it function all the time. That every single detail of creation, we will see that it only exists because of God's power. If God did not will it, an ant couldn't exist, this cup couldn't exist, nothing in the world could exist. And if there wasn't a godly energy in every single speck of reality, whether that's physical, spiritual, animate, inanimate, plants, animals, rocks, whatever it is, if there wasn't a spark of godly energy inside of everything in the world, that thing would not exist anymore. It couldn't exist. We're going to see that when Mashiach comes, how God, in fact, is the one who is creating every detail of creation. And by revealing how God is the ruler of the world in the exile, this brings about the redemption. And that every single thing that comes into existence is through God's will that it does so. That's the first stage. The second stage, which is a higher level of godliness, is Inyan Na'ala Yoiser Begilu Aleph, who in Aleph Melashon Alufana Belibud. It's referring to learning and comprehending. So the first stage is an awareness that God creates everything and is creating the world. The second stage is more than an awareness. It's through learning the deepest secrets of creation and the Torah that we're starting to learn now a little bit. That's what we do here on Monday night. And on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, we have a Kabbalah shir on the Sefer Yetzirah, which is the first and deepest secrets of Kabbalah, of creation ever written. And in these classes, we are beginning this process of revealing and bringing us to a state of godly consciousness or awareness. There's a difference between perceiving that God exists in the world and knowing that God exists in the world. The only way to gain knowledge is by learning, right? How does a brain surgeon learn how to become a brain surgeon? Not by becoming aware that there's teachings of surgery, of brain surgery, but by learning. That's how he becomes knowledgeable and ultimately is able to do and perform his surgeries. It's the same idea. By learning these deep secrets of creation in Kabbalah and Hasidus, which will be magnified and revealed even deeper when Mashiach comes, we will reach a higher state of awareness or consciousness of knowledge of God. And this is Gilu Elokus Bagula Mitzvah Shlema, that the revelation of God that will exist in the true and complete redemption. In addition to the fact that we will be aware that God creates every aspect of creation, Also, you will come to an awareness that there's an existence of God completely above and removed from all of the worlds. And this is by what we say is entering godly energy or knowledge into our mochin, into our brains. When we learn Torah, when we learn the deepest secrets of the Torah, when we learn the innermost dimensions of the Torah, our brains get connected to this higher level of godly consciousness. It's known as Chokhmah and Bina, wisdom and understanding, which are above from the emotional attributes that God used to create the world. We know God created the world in 7 days. Each day is connected to one of the sphirot, the Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yisod, and Malchus, the 7 emotional attributes that God used to create the world. But that is the knowledge of God as he is in the world. But when you go to a higher level, which we say is Chokhmah and Bina, which is the foundation of our intellect, Chokhmah, Bina, and Das, that's where the name Chabad comes from. We're now entering into a level of godly knowledge that is above from the world. In other words, loftier or more spiritual, if you will, from the world. As we said before, because the Torah preceded the world by 2,000 years. This higher level of divinity before the world was created. Adofim gam lashon adofecha. Adofecha chokma adofecha bina. The alfim, alpayim, which literally means 2,000 in Hebrew, is from the same root adofecha, which literally means to learn or to comprehend with our intellects. Godly energy that is above the world, but that's connected to the world. That's the second level of the Aleph of Moshiach consciousness. The third level, it's interesting the lashon the Rebbe uses where he says and afterwards, afterwards we reach this higher level of awareness. That's something important to point out, that in every aspect of learning, of growth, of consciousness, of awareness, it's stages. You can't jump to the higher level of consciousness. You can't go from 0 to 3. You have to go through the stages, 1, 2, 3. First one is refining your emotional attributes and realizing that God is in the world and creates every detail of the world and is connected to every aspect of your life. The second is going to a higher level of consciousness, which is what we call Chokhmah, Bina, and Das, intellectual consciousness, a realization that God is above the world, that God gave us a Torah, that he can relate to us above the world into the world. And then, only then, after that higher level of consciousness, we can reach the highest level of consciousness, which is called Pele, which is Aleph backwards, which means Pele or wondrous, which is more than a miracle. And this is what it says, just like when I took you out of Egypt, I will show you wonders, including the wonders of the Torah of Mashiach, the inner dimension of the Torah, the innermost secrets, the deepest secrets of the Torah. These are secrets that are completely removed from the world right now. And that will take us to this higher level of awareness, which is the highest level, that not only is God in this world, not only is God giving us tools to connect to him above the world, in the world, but God is completely removed from this world. And this entire world, from God's perspective, doesn't exist. It's like an analogy of you're blowing, you have gum in your mouth, you're chewing it, you blow a bubble. Okay, it's something, there's a bubble, but you could pull it back into your mouth, or a little spit bubble. You suck it back into your mouth. That's what the world is for God. It's like a little spit bubble. It means nothing. It's something because he wants to live here and he wants to dwell down here with us. But he's so far removed from the world to think that somehow there's anything in this world that could have any influence over it. So these are 3 stages of consciousness or awareness that's going to take place in the redemption, and that we are capable of tapping into now. And as explained in Chassidut, the Sfiros Lamayla, in the Sfirot above, Aleph. Who connected Sfira HaMachus? The fact that God is the ruler of the world, the first level of Mashiach consciousness we spoke about, is connected to the Sfira of Malchus. Gilui Malchuso Yisrech Ba'oidam, revealing of God's kingship in this world. Malchus literally means kingship. It shows how God is the ruler over this world, and there's no one who rules over God. It says the hearts of kings are in the hands of God. So anytime we want to panic or freak out about what's going on in the world, we like it, we don't like it, we're worried, we're concerned, always remember that the entire world is just little pieces in a puzzle in God's hand. And in 1 second, God could change the will of any world ruler like that. Boom, 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 boom. Because he creates them. He creates everyone. And that is what we call Malchus, his kingship, his ability to rule over this world. Echad. And this is when we say Echad, when we say the Shema prayer, Shema Hashem, Shema Elokeinu, Shema Echad. Echad is Aleph, Het, Dalet. Aleph is referring that God is one. There's only one God. Het is he is in heaven and the 7 spiritual worlds. And Dalet is the 4 directions of the world, north, south, east, and west. That's a meditation when we say the Shema prayer. To realize that God is above the world, but he rules over this world down here below. And in general, not only Malchus, but the other 6 emotional attributes where the world was built upon. Base, the second level of Aleph of Adufecha, meaning to learn or to comprehend. This is connected to the level of the Mochin, which is Chochmah and Bina, as we spoke about, the intellectual attributes. Mochin Shayim the Midos, the way that our intellect corresponds to our emotions. That it's above the world. Nevertheless, it is the beginning and connector to the world. Then we have Gimel, which is the 3rd level of the Aleph, which is miracles, Alufa, Peda, miracles that are above the world. And that is connected to what we say, Chochmah in and of itself, and furthermore to the sphere of Keter, which is the highest level of consciousness or awareness that is ascertained after these other 2 levels are, into the deepest secrets of all, and how God is completely removed from anything connected to this world. That he is wondrous and removed completely from any attributes of this world. And we know that the main service in the time of the exile is to rectify our 7 emotional attributes through our mochin that is connected to our midos. In other words, through our intellect, through learning, through comprehending, we're able to rectify our animalistic desires. That's not the case in the true and complete redemption, where the purpose of our brains were not going to be to elevate our emotions, because our emotions will already be elevated. In other words, they will no longer be used for animalistic purposes, but they will be used for excitement over God and doing good in the world. So at that point in time, what will happen is our consciousness will elevate into what we say is Panimius Chochmah, or Keter, which is the inner attributes of our intellect and our godly connection above the intellect, where it will just be wondrous, amazing comprehensions, chidushim, unique renewals. It says in the time of the exile, our main work is what we call is birurim, where we're rectifying the world. And the time of redemption, the main work is called zivugim, which is connecting. We're just connecting godly energies to reach higher and higher states of awareness and consciousness. And through revealing this higher level of godly energy in the true and complete redemption, in addition to revealing how it is God's power that brings everything into reality, and we will reveal God as he is completely above from the world, and then the very essence of God will be revealed down here below. But specifically in this physical world, God's very essence will be revealed. Hey, in addition to all this, we can now understand how the exile is going to be transformed into the redemption just from this one simple letter, from adding Aleph. Klaudo says, "Kol hashleishi sagninim degili Aleph." including all the three levels of Aleph that we just said earlier. Alufo Sholem, God is the ruler of the world. Adufena, as we will learn and have a higher level of consciousness. And Pela, as we will experience miracles and wonders. Dafke al yidei avoda begodas. All of these things are dependent upon our work now. In other words, we're not just hanging out and waiting for this new level of awareness to take place. We're doing everything we can now to bring this level of awareness into ourselves and into reality. Again, one of the first ways we do that is by learning what we're learning now. That's the beginning of the process of shifting of consciousness, of awareness that this is taking place, and the ability to comprehend and learn the higher level of reality that's in the world. The Dak, and we said that Aleph, and specifically through adding Aleph into Gola, we create Geula. Exile turns into redemption. Bakal Shlish is Hadarga Shabo, including all three levels, as we said above. Gilui Koach Nifal, revealing that God is the power of every single action that takes place. Yadua Kal Po'ala Ki Ata Polasai. This is the level of Malchus, that you create everything that takes place in this world. Gilui Shleimas Alufona V'Leimer HaTorah, revealing of a completion of learning the secrets of the Torah, which is Gilui Elukush Lamara Mahabriya. God as He exists above the world, ad Gilui HaNiflois, up until the point where we start experiencing God in a state of wondrous rapture, which is the highest level. Zot Omeret. So there is to say, Lo mistafkim bezeh shemagili the goyla bechinas aluf v'shel oilam. It's not enough. We're not just satisfied to reveal in the exile the level of God ruling over the world. Through using the matters of the world, the Shem Shemayim, for the sake of heaven. And you should know God in all your ways. So that's the first level. First level, again, to know that God is the ruler of the world, that we must use all the matters in this world for the sake of heaven. Everything should be done to further the redemption. Everything should have a godly purpose behind it. To shift from a selfish consciousness where I do what is good for me or for my friends or my family, which is important. But it's a shifting of not what I can get out of this world, but what I can give, what I can do to transform and reveal God into this world by doing everything for the sake of heaven and to know God in all of your ways. The second level, of course, we said earlier, alufno, which is Leimer HaTorah, by learning Torah, especially the deeper secrets of the Torah. And the third level is the Peda, or the wondrous level, Aydei Leimer Penimius HaTorah, which is by learning the innermost dimension of the Torah, as we said earlier. Okay, Yesh Lamar, there is to say, Shenoisif al ha'avoda, in addition to this service, Megalos, in the time of the exile, Harzen Nifal Gam Aydei Etzem Ha'inin, Geula, Begola Hakavana Eluyas, Komosh Katuv Amarta Bayom Ho Idecha Ki Hashem Ki Afana B. We will thank God when Mashiach comes for all of the challenges and difficulties we went through. How are we going to thank God for the suffering? If you look what's going on in the world, horrific, horrible things are happening. Which doesn't make sense that we would thank God for all this bad. How can that be? So there is to say, Yushov apecha v'nachamani, and your anger will go down to comfort us. Ki az because then our knowledge will reach a state of completion. Im hoda'ah, and our praise. Hi alzeh yushuv afecha, and it will cause your anger to decrease. Haya yosher toiv hoda'ah yosher gadol shematchila lo haya nafibi mezeh mokoach shadahi dafka nafibi. So he said, hold on a second. So you are in anger, and we suffered, and then Mashiach will come, and your anger will go away, and we won't suffer anymore. You'll be comforting us. The Rebbe says What? So what does that mean? Okay, I'm going to beat you, and then afterwards I'm going to, pet you, and then everything's great. Don't beat us. just skip the whole process. We don't need you causing suffering to us, and then afterwards, um, making us feel good and comforting us. Just skip the whole thing. So let's explain. That specifically the reason we got sent into this exile, into this suffering, that's with God's anger, if you will, upon us. I lost my place. 1 second. In order to bring about an elevation in the times of the redemption. But not only that, to go to a much higher level. To reach to this highest level of Aleph, which is wonders. And by redeeming us, by entering the Aleph, by entering the godly energy into the world. Hakavana Elyoina, Shibazeh, Nizgala Orech Hashem Anfei Bi. Bechinas Oda'a Dafka Devar Pelesh Lamara Meseka Bahachma. Specifically, we'll see that it will be revealed Hashem and how this level of knowledge of God specifically will be above seichel, above intellect, above anything we can comprehend. And then we will praise God for the wonders He did for us. And we will praise and thank God for all the long time we spent in suffering, for all the difficulties and all the challenges. We will thank Him. Because it's something that we can't comprehend. A wonder, a pella, something that is wondrous, is above the nature. It's above the normal capacity for us to grasp or comprehend. And that's the idea, is that we're trying to make sense of these things, and they're not going to make logical sense. But when Mashiach comes, we're going to have a revelation of God revealed completely above logic, to the point that the joy and the happiness and the excitement is going to be so overwhelming that our brains are not even going to blink at the suffering, even though it's real and it's very painful right now, but it will seem like nothing when Mashiach comes because of the high level of godly energy that will be revealed. It says now, we can't ask questions on these wondrous things because they don't make logical sense. And this itself will draw down and reveal this level of the Aleph. And the whole idea is that we will transform this darkness, this exile that appears to be so bad and so dark. It will all be transformed and revealed to good. Vav. And we know that the true and complete redemption will take place through Mashiach, our righteous Redeemer. And Mashiach himself encompasses all three of these levels that we spoke about. As the Rambam, the only codifier of halacha, of Jewish law, to give the qualifications of Mashiach. Melech HaMashiach, who? Beit David Mezerah Shlomo. It's an interesting pasuk the Rambam says. He says Mashiach will come from the house of David. Sorry, I got a neck cramp. And the seed of Shlomo. Seemingly, we don't understand why this language is used. Why does it say from the house of David? We already know that the house of David is the same house of Shlomo. It just comes from the same seat, same place. That we know that Mashiach comes from David and Melech, from the tribe of Shlomo, from the tribe of King David. And that lineage never ends. The kingship of David will go on forever. So why does it have to add and from the seed of Shlomo? Right? The same lineage. V'yesh lomar, there's to say, b'mei shloimoi haya ma'ain u'metzav shel geula mitzvah shlema. And in the times of Shlomo HaMelech, there was a foretaste, a beginning, an example of how things will be in the true and complete redemption, right? Shlomo is from the same root of shalom, which means peace. Bizmano shel David haya milchamas. In the time of King David, we were in a time of war. It doesn't mean that David did anything wrong. He shed blood because he had to. He didn't have a choice. He had to go to war against the nations that were trying to destroy him. But nevertheless, that's not how things are going to be when Mashiach comes. And that's what the Rebbe says. Now, Dam the Roish Havachot, he spilled a lot of blood. Masha'ein Kain Bizmanu Shal Shloimo Shirar Shalom. That is not the case in the time of King Shlomo, that the world was in a state of peace. Shlomo. And that's why he was called Shlomo, because it's the same root of Shalom. It's a foretaste of the peace that will take place in the future to come. There will be no more wars or destruction. It will be an ultimate state of peace. In addition to this, King Shlomo was the ultimate, the epitome of Chokhmah, of wisdom. And so Shlomo was the wisest of all men. Furthermore, Mitarev Chokhmah Shlomo, Mekah Chokhmah Mitzrayim. He was smarter than all the big wise men of Egypt. Hitaron Shal Aleph, Mizgado Aire Gola. And this is an advantage of the Aleph that will be revealed in the time of redemption. Shebkoach Zeh Kol Chachmei Goyim Mizbato Be'etzem Gavi Chokhmah Shlomo Aire Machama Al Kain Nikra Shlomo Ki Shalom Haya B'Yamam. It says even the wisest of all the kings in the whole world could not compare to the wisdom of King Shlomo. So every time I learn this, I get excited because it's so amazing to see the parallels between our Rebbe and Shlomo HaMelech. It says, in the time of Shlomo HaMelech, there was no war. And all the kings of the world, all the big ministers, all the heads of countries, of continents, the generals, they all brought gifts to Shlomo HaMelech. And as the Rebbe said, what did they bring? Nitzatzot Kedusha, sparks of godly energy. As we pointed out earlier in this class, there's nothing in this world that exists without a spark of godly energy in it. Meaning, I got a stretch here, that if there was not godly spark in this glass case, it wouldn't exist. So when all these rulers and kings from all over the world brought gifts to Shlomo HaMelech, they were bringing a physical gift. And there was also godly sparks in that gift that were coming from all over the world and coming back to the king of the Jewish people. Just like when we went out of Egypt. That's why we left Egypt. We started off the Sikha talking about why did the Egyptians voluntarily give the Jewish people all their money and their silver and their gold and their clothing. We didn't ask for it. God didn't tell them to do it, because the godly energy in there was so overwhelmingly powerful. They wouldn't be able to handle it. It was too much. They didn't have the capacity for it. They didn't have the vessel for it. So they literally were like, take it. It was like a hotcake. It was like an energy that was too overwhelming for them. So they had to pass this energy on. And that's why when the Jewish people left Egypt, we left with not only physical treasures or wealth, but all the godly sparks that were trapped in the Egyptian society. And the same thing happened in the time of Shlomo HaMelech, that the rulers brought gifts to Shlomo HaMelech from all over the world. And what they were is there was divine energy in all those gifts that were coming and being recollected and given to King Shlomo. The same thing you notice with our Rebbe. Our Rebbe never left 770. There's countless videos of the Rebbe standing there and people bringing him gifts from around the world, keys to cities, you name it, from all over the world leaders, governors and presidents and prime ministers, not just Jews from around the whole world, just like in the times of King Shlomo. And every one of those things represented not just a physical gift, but nitzotzot, godly sparks that were being collected and returned back into the king, into the general soul of the whole generation. Lo yira velo shitchashu ki malacha haaretz de'ah. There was no war. There was no problems in the world. All they were doing is bringing this energy back. Ma'al the arts de'ah va'al derek habiror al yedei oisek v'torah v'chochma u'vriyasa bebet hara be'etzem kamo l'si levo. And this was a foretaste in the future to come, that all the negative energy in the world will be removed, and all the godly sparks will return back to their source. And all and flesh will see God, meaning everything in creation will return to its godly purpose. And this brings about the completion of Malchus or kingship. And King Shlomo will represent the completion of kingship. It said King Shlomo sat in the chair of God, his throne. And he sat in a way of peace and calmness. And this is in a differentiation between King David, where he did not have a calm kingship. He was constantly at war and constantly had opposition to him. And therefore we see that the kingship of King Shlomo, this kingship that was represented from the first temple, will once again take place in the eternal temple, Begula Nitchi, in the eternal redemption, the third temple which we're waiting for. There'll be no more exile, because it will be an eternal temple, an eternal peace, and an eternal kingship. But after the first temple existed, undesirable negative energies got mixed together with it, and that caused war. And then ultimately the destruction of the first temple, and then after that the destruction of the second temple, and that long exile that we're still in since that destruction. But once again, we will return to a time of peace, and it will be eternal peace with Melech HaMashiach, King Mashiach. And this will be L'mayra Malchus Shlomo, even be higher than King Shlomo. And there will be one king over all of the rulership of this world. And there will no longer be two separate kingships. But King David, my servant, his seed, which we know that the Rebbe is from this lineage of King David, will be the eternal king over the whole world. And that's why we see is that Melech HaMashiach will come from the seed of David. From the house of David and the seed of Shlomo. Ki chidush Mashiach. I lost my place. Yeah, B'malech David, B'malech Shlomo. He will have the advantage of David and the advantage of Shlomo, the kingship and the peace. And he will have the completion of kingship, including Chokmah and Malchus, meaning the wisdom in the kingship. And King Mashiach will even have more wisdom than King Shlomo did. That he will have the completion of this level of mochin in a wondrous way, which is keter, which is the third level of consciousness we spoke about of Mashiach. And Noisef al mochin midos malchus, including his mochin and his midos and malchus, meaning he will be in a state of total completion. Kumosh Kasuv, as it says, Nircha alav ruach Hashem ruach chokma bina ruach eitzi v'vora ruach de'ah v'yiras Hashem, as the prophet Yeshayahu says, and that the spirit of God will be upon him, a spirit of wisdom, a spirit of understanding, a spirit of advice and strength and knowledge and fear of God, referring to Melech HaMashiach himself. Kiyadua shemashiach Yahya hein melech v'hein rav, and like is known that Mashiach will be a king as well as a rav, as well as a rebbe, a rabbi. And v'leimer kol ha'am Torah, and he will teach Torah to the entire nation, Klo hanifloei shel pnimis Torah, including the wonders and secrets of the Torah. Zion. B'kdei she'etzel kol Yehudi haya es koach lekabel es iguli shel Mashiach, that in order that every single one of us has the power to receive and reveal Mashiach in our lives. It's necessary that we begin the process of bringing this level of Aleph into our existence. Shalom. This level of godly awareness. Yodua should call Yehudi yesh bo nitzay shel Mashiach, as is known that every yid has a spark of Mashiach inside of us. V'lochein kol echad me'echad oimer yitachem banu mikra kosuv nitcha adab machus midos mochin shaykh the midos of mochin ha'etz. That means we have to rectify and refine all of our attributes, our emotional attributes, our behavior, our intellect, our thoughts, our emotions. Everything has to be channeled towards this godly purpose of redemption. Yesh Lamar is to say, Shezahu Toichan HaMishnah B'tchilas HaPerchi Enochi Shemafrat Arba'im Devarim Ezu Chachem, who is referring to the Mishnah and Perkei Avos, who is a wise person, Ezu Gavor, who is strong, Ezu Ashir, who is rich, Ezu Mechuved, and who has glory, who has honor. V'doshem Ka Neged Arba Dargos Shemehem Machalukim. These are connected to these four levels we just spoke about. Eser koichos and nefesh, all 10 soul powers, which are corresponding to the 4 letters of the name Havaya. Yud Hey Vav Hey, Yud being Chochma, Hey being Bina, Vav being emotions, and the final Hey being our Malchus, or speech. Ezu Chocham Chochma, Ezu Gavar Bina, Ezu Asher Tiferes, Ezu Makubad Malchus. And every single yid literally has a portion of God inside of us. And furthermore, literally God Himself. And if you catch one aspect of something, it's like catching the whole thing. Including all 4 levels of God's name Havaya. Vavore shaloi misbatas v'galos arba ininim el ado efen shal lafin deshor hadin mile chasidus bechinas niflois. Okay, but ayde zeh sheyesh lo biguli es kol arba ininim nase shlemas hamachos. We have to bring about a completion in all these aspects, which is the completion of God's kingship. Shlemos kisei malchus shel David regalim dafka. It says the King Shlomo sat in God's chair. And the chair, Kisei, has all 4 levels, has 4 legs. That means every aspect of us must be strong. We can't have any deficiencies, not in our physical body, not in our emotional attributes, not in our thought, or not in our godly connection. Everything has to function together. Ki Yehudim Hey, B'nei Malachim, and every yid is a son of kings. The Sirmazah, Malachim, literally kings themselves. And the ultimate glory, and it belongs to God Himself. How much more so also is our connection to the Torah by learning Torah. It's important that we have to learn the teachings of God, of His Torah, including the teachings of the rabbis. And this is how we bring down the Chachma, the wisdom, into Malchus, into kingship. Into the completion of the kingship. And these are the 4 levels and connected to the 4 legs of the chair. Hacham, Gibor, Ashira, Makavoid. Chachma, Bina, Tiferet, and Malchus. Our godly capacity, our spiritual capacity, our intellectual, our emotional, and the physical. And the 4 legs of the chair. And this is in order to sit in the chair, it has to have all four legs. The Haisif, in addition to this. We see this also as a king here down below. As we just said earlier. And the idea is to draw down this godly energy that is completely above the world into the world and elevate this world above the world. And to emphasize even more, as we stand here on the day of Shabbat, the day the Rebbe gave the Sikh. Shabbat is connected to the sphere of Malchus. But Prat B'Yamei has Sphira, Shana Zuk, and is connected to the counting of the days of the Sphira, which we're in now. Sha'az call Shabbos Sheva Shabbatos Tamimos. We count the Sphira for 7 complete weeks. Who connected Malchus Shehas Sphira? The Shavua, who Malchus Shebeches, Malchus Shebegavor, Malchus Shebestiferes, Malchus Shebenetzach, Malchus Shebehoid, Malchus Shebeyisod, Malchus Shebemalchus. All the 7 dimensions of kingship. Sheshabazom Malchus Shebehoid, and in that Shabbos was Malchus of Hod. Malchus Kamashihi Kashroim Hashlemus Hu Hoda'ah, which is Hod is referring to Hoda'ah or praise of God. Chaim. Ches. Because that Nitoisif Oy Doisif Amdeno B'Shabbos Achrei Lag BaOmer. And as we are standing here now, the Shabbos after Lag BaOmer. Lag BaOmer is this Friday, Thursday night. It is the day of the passing of Shimon Bar Yochai Rashbi, the one who brought out the deepest secrets of the Torah in the Kabbalah known as the Zohar. A tremendous day of celebration that Jewish people will be celebrating around the world and lighting fires and dancing all over to celebrate Rashbi's neshama and how he brought us the deep secrets of the Torah through the Kabbalah, through the Zohar, which lit up the world. And this is a day of great joy, as Rashbi said, when Rashbi was sitting together with his 10 closest students, and before he passed, as is brought down in the Idra Zutra of the Zohar, he knew he was passing. Nothing happens to a tzaddik without their permission, and he basically announced to his students that the day of his passing should be a day of great celebration across the entire world. That Rashbi revealed the innermost dimension of the Torah. And that is the day of his passing of this world. Nishmasa deraisa. Ad sha'ide kasiva devarim me'eda. Harizel nisala acharchach. The Kabbalah Yisrael ad ba'ofen. These chafanasu. V'habaram v'hasag gilui b'chinas niflo shebatorah b'chokma bina v'das. Tichar ba'ayin b'dugma digilui panimis haTorah. That Rashbi brought about the process of bringing Kabbalah and ultimately what would become Chassidus into the world. That the more we dwell into the inner dimensions of the Torah, the deeper we go into the Torah, the more we reveal godly energy into the world and into our bodies and our souls in a way that we can comprehend it and grasp it. And that's what Shimon Bar Yochai began that process in the world. In addition to this, Rashbi gam chibora es penimis haTorah im niglas haTorah. Not only did he reveal, the innermost dimension of the Torah, but he also revealed the outer aspect of the Torah. He connected the inner and the outer. V'yesh lamar shebaTorah atzmo nigla b'Torah penimis haTorah zeh al derech ben aleph malashon lefona v'lewa. And this is the aleph as it's connected to learning Torah, and the other fecha connected to the wonders above. Peva, to the wonders above the world. Just an important note. The Torah has 2 dimensions to it. It's multiple, but there's external and internal, what's called as the nigla, or the halacha, or the revealed part of the Torah, and the penimius, or the secrets of the Torah. And you have to have both to have a completion. And it's the same thing with us. People spend so much time and energy and money, to exercise and take care of their bodies, and that's very important. But if you're not learning, if you're not working on refining your soul and the innermost aspect of your body, you're only dealing with one aspect of it. And that's why it's so important to work on internally as well, to in addition to Torah, to work on yourself, to get help if there's any emotional mental challenges, difficulties. These things need to be worked on. It's not enough just to deal with the external part of reality. We have to balance the internal and the external together. And Rashbi brought us that connection in the Torah, and it's a lesson for us in our lives. And this brought about the revealing of godly energy into the world. Like it's known, Tania Rash ben Yochai, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, Tanai Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. He was one of the Tanaim of the times of the Gemara. He was one of the commentators of the Gemara. That God's dwelling, his presence dwelled upon him. And when we went to Babel, the Shekhinah went with him. And when the Jewish people went to Edom, that God's presence went with us. That wherever we traveled in the exile, God goes with us. Rashbi, according to what Rashbi says, God's energy that he brought into this world, as who Yuchol Diftor as Kol Ha'oidam Melashon Hedam Vehester Min Hadin Kol Din Hagalus, bringing God's energy into the world where it is concealed. V'yesh lakasher zem gam al im zer shalag ba'oimer hu hayom shel hod shebahod. It's interesting that Rashbi's day of fasting is on the sphere of the rectification of the sphere to Omer of hod shebahod, the hod within the hod. Shema al ha'inyan shel hoda'ah. Hod is from the root of hoda'ah, which means to give praise or thanks to God. Hoda'ah sheba hoda'ah, the ultimate praise to God. It's the highest level of what we can do. You see, when someone has the acknowledgement, the sphere of Hod is the realization that we each have abilities. We have powers, we have talents, we have things that no one else has. We can't, if we deny that, it says misplaced modesty is worse than pride. In other words, if God has given you talents or abilities that you have, acknowledge them. It's not an ego to say, wow, God gave me the ability to speak, to be helpful one another, to care for one another, to whatever it is. Whatever tools we have, we need to acknowledge them. But the Hod aspect, the sincerity, the praise of God comes when we don't let them go to our ego and say, I'm so smart and I'm so caring and I'm such a nice person, but realize that all of our divine abilities come from God himself. And therefore, we must utilize these divine abilities for godly purposes to make the world a better place. So be aware of your talents, acknowledge them, but also acknowledge that they come from God. And this is one of the ways of drawing down the godly energy into the world. Because a Hod is the completion of the emotional attributes, the first 5. After that, you have Yisod and Malchus, which is really taking these energies and transmitting them to another. Zotamar Chedekla es Kol Hamidos ad Malchus Sheba Malchus Noisef al Hamshacha Mochin al Yedei. Then we have this energy, as we spoke about, which channels all the way down from above to below. Hod hu lesfira ha-chamishis, the 5th level. Shemerumaz gal mechin chamishis taparot. This very high level of godly energy connected to the 5th level of godly energy from the world of Adam Kadmon or Keter, which is above. Bechinas, the level of Paro of Kedusha, the holy aspect of Paro. Bechinas Pela, which is this wondrous energy above the world we've been speaking about. Test. Marashbi nimshach achar kilui penimis ator. But the reino shel achar zeh ador harizah. And after Rashbi brought the Kabbalah from the Zohar into the world, after that we have the teachings of the Arizal, who was one of the students of Rashbi, who further brought that energy further down into the world. Mitzvah lagos as hachma. In the time of Shimon bar Yochai, Rashbi, he only revealed the secrets of the Torah, the Zohar, to a very small group of students that he had. But after that, when it traveled to the Arizal was instructed from above to take those teachings and spread them out even further, to bring them to a much wider audience. And after that came the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidus, took these teachings and spread them out even further. And after that, we have the Alter Rebbe, which transformed these teachings into the Torah of Chabad Hasidus, which we're learning now from our Rebbe, the seventh Chabad Rebbe. And then from all the Rebbes after that, from the Alter Rebbe all the way up to our Rebbe, now we can learn the innermost dimension of the Torah in a way of Chabad, or Chokhmah, Bina, and Das, where these once very unattainable secrets of the Torah have now been revealed, and we're now learning them. That's what we do every Monday night and every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Monday night, we learn Chassidus on Moshiach and Geula, and Wednesday night, we learn Kabbalah, the teachings of the Sefer Yetzirah, all bringing these godly secrets into the world so we can make sense of them and appreciate and connect to an infinite God. And the well springs of Chassidus have been spread out to the furthest corners of the world. Chadam, Nefesh, Gam, and Nefesh Behemias, into not only the furthest corners of the world, but the furthest corners of our body. The idea is to infuse our entire bodies and our brains, our souls, and our hearts with godly energy. The more we do that, the more we transform our individual animalistic wants and desires into more of a sharing, humane, godly energy. And this, the Rebbe says, is a foretaste of what will be revealed in the future to come with Mashiach. And these teachings have been spread out further all the way throughout the generations from all 7 Chabad Rebbes up into our generation, to the leader of our generation, our Rebbe. Ad Liguluim Penimis HaTorah B'Dorenu Zeh Gufa Noisef Moshe Mashana Ad Liguluim B'Yemei Aide Ksiva Amra De'etz Chaim, etc. Okay. Ba'oifen Kamar Mamshichim Es Nifrei Shebetorah, in such a way that the greatest wonders and secrets of the Torah, B'Habana V'Hasaga, can now be grasped and understood by intellectual minds. We can now take these high levels of godly energy that were never once allowed to be revealed and learn them. Including all powers of our soul. B'Lashon HaTorah, Admor Hazaki, Yodua, Al HaPasuk, Maskil, Eitan, Izrachi, She'itan, Shebenashama. That's Neshama, Chidus Pel. Yesh lo Maskil, Ma Sha'ire Koach HaMaskil, Zoit Chazara. Now we have the power to comprehend this high level of godly energy in all of our senses. Mamshik Lamayra Maseko Mahaseko, Lagam Hashlemus Izricha, in the sea level. And this in the future to come will even be a higher comprehension. Okay. And by drawing down this high level of godly energy and this deep secrets of the Torah, we're able to reveal godly energy down here into this physical world. Baruch Hashem le'olam, amen v'amen. And God will be blessed in this world forever and ever. The Akhazam is more tzaddik, and then we're talking about the Tehillim, the 89th and now the 90th pasuk of Tehillim. Tefillah Moshe Ish Elokim, the prayer of Moses, the man of God. Adisur Mavihi Noam Hashem Elokeinu Aleinu, and that God will reveal Himself upon us and establish the work of our hands. Shalamayim et Anuk Aru Masi Adenu Kana Aleinu. What is it referring to? It's referring to the third temple, the true and complete redemption. That all of the work we're doing, all the deeds of kindness, all the Torah we're learning, all the prayer, all the charity that is going to be established in the third temple, we will see the benefit of all of our good deeds in a revealed way. But Pashtus, by learning Torah, especially the inner dimension of the Torah, the Chassidus we're learning now, Gafinis Gala, but Chassidus Kolo Aidim Mistachel, Bifnei Hara, Momor, Bipanav, Zehu Moisef, Abanav Halema. This is how we reveal, as we said, this high level of Pella, this wondrous energy in the world. And this makes a vessel to reveal God in the world, to the point that we will see Right now, we don't see God. If we work hard enough, we could perceive God in our lives. We realize He's with us. We see how He's helping us, but we will actually physically see God. What that means, nobody really knows, but that's what's going to happen. And the very essence of God will be revealed in this physical world. And only God Himself can create Yesh Ma'ayin. You have all these scientists that are trying to genetically mutate things, but only God could create something out of nothing. They're taking an existence and they're trying to mutate it or change it or multiply it, but they're taking an existence. Only God could create something out of absolutely nothing. And all of this is connected to the work of us now. Which is not just a work of pushing away negative things. Don't be evil, but you should be righteous. Now the Rebbe is about to bring out a big chiddush that has never been stated before, that totally supersedes what the Alter Rebbe teaches us in the Tanya. It says now, the Afal Pi She'ein Kol Adam Zeicher Lihiyot Tzaddik, that even though not every person can merit to be a tzaddik, as the Alter Rebbe explains, there's only a certain amount of tzaddikim, holy people, in every generation. And it's not within our free choice whether or not we can be a tzaddik or not. And as we find ourselves down here in this physical world, souls and bodies with an animalistic soul in a physical coarse world, nevertheless, the very essence of God is what infuses our physical bodies. As we said above, nevertheless, we can see that every one of us now has the power down here below to reveal the highest levels that have not been revealed up until this point. Up until the point of becoming a tzaddik, a totally righteous person. It's a total chiddush that has never been said before. And there is to say after all these matters we have discussed, shall be including the refining and rectification of our physical bodies in this world. And through the work of the Yid and through the continuation of the exile, through thousands of years. It's the capabilities of every single Yid right now to reach the highest of levels, including the level of tzaddik. And this will be revealed in the true and complete redemption. It's a very, very big, wondrous thing. We say, call Yehudim tzaddikim, all my people are righteous. Up until this point of time, only a select few in every generation had the capabilities of reaching this level of tzaddik. If you tell these words to any Torah scholar, to any rabbi in this generation, they would tell you you're a koifer and you don't know what you're talking about. You have to open the Sefer, which I've done several times to people because they don't believe me that the Rebbe said this. The Rebbe says now, because of all the work for thousands of years, all the Torah, all the mitzvahs, everything we've done, Mashiach is already here and present. We've already started the process of redemption. And therefore it says, in the future to come, all my people will reach the level of tzaddikim, of righteous people. The Rebbe said that gate is open now. Don't delude yourself and think you're tzaddik. The point is that we have the capacity to reach these levels that were never, ever before reachable. But you have to traverse through all these levels to get there. But the point is the gates are no longer closed. There's no limitations to the level of godly awareness, consciousness, and action that we can achieve right now, because we are already at the threshold of redemption. And the service of spreading out the deepest secrets of the Torah outside to the outside world, and the fact that God is the one who brings the energy into the entire world, to the furthest corners of the world. And everything we said above is a vessel and a preparation to reveal the glory of God in the world. Geula mitzvahs shlema, and the true and complete redemption. And the entire occupation of the world will only be to know God. Yes, it is. It's time for the best dream team. We need the complete Geula, the complete redemption, where the whole occupation of the world will only be to know God. And then the innermost dimension of the Torah will be revealed. And your teacher will no longer be concealed from your eyes. Final letter Yud. And everything we've learned above, simply stated, but noga the pualis, as it connects to action, because the main thing is to do. And every one of us, it's necessary to do everything possible to bring about and hasten the redemption. In addition to the actions and activities we're doing in our portion of the world, including the entire world. We must reveal how God is the true ruler of the entire world. And the entire world is under his auspices. First of all, that all of our deeds shall be for the sake of heaven. The Ehu call shekal devar ba'odam megala es kavoda shel hakodesh baruch Hu, that you should know God in all your ways and reveal His glory into the world. Secondly, we must increase in our Torah learning, and specifically Panemius Torah, the innermost dimension of the Torah, which is revealed in the Torah of Chassidus, in such a way that we comprehend it in our wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. And third, and we must influence those around us as well, to spread out these teachings, the innermost dimensions of the Torah, to the furthest corners of the world that we can reach. The Ratzon may be God's will. The Gemara, the Haknis, the Gulas as Aleph Bagot, that we should be complete and finished with entering the Aleph into the exile and bringing immediately and transforming the exile into redemption. And immediately. That thus we see, furthermore, that every one of us is standing in this situation right now, the vushim begidim shalahem, including our physical garments, afidu imheim adayin begedim soim ki geula bo'al oifen shalo achvan afidu ka'eraf ayin, as we said earlier, and that right now, as we're standing physically in our existence, Moshiach will come, but ka'eraf ayin, the Rebbe says, in a blink of an eye. Never despair, never give up hope. Never feel that things are so bad and we're in such a bad things. Because we have to realize that in 1 second, God could take us out of our individual troubles and the worldly problems. And He will. We have to just increase in our amunah and bitachon, in our trust and belief. And immediately we'll have the redemption. And then we will all be revealed as true righteous people. And all the Yidden, our young and our old, and our sin, our sons and our daughters. And we will go together with all of our belongings, our silver, our gold, all of our stuff. How much more so our shuls and our synagogues and our places of worship. Nasi Ubeno Yisrael. Including the leader of our generation. The Simcha Gadola B'Kriyas V'Kulam, great joy and celebration. And we could connect this through giving more tzedakah, more charity. The Karvas Esa Geula, because charity hastens the redemption. Be'eretz HaKodesh, and we will all go to the Holy Land. B'Yushalayim Har Kodesh, to the holy city of Jerusalem. B'Har HaKodesh, to the holy mountain, and to the base of Migdash Shlishi, Mikdash Adonai Kana Yadecha, the temple that God Himself will establish with His hands. We should have the full Hizgalus of Melech HaMashiach. I bless everyone to have an amazing week. Wednesday night, 8 o'clock, we will be learning Kabbalah. And until then, Moshiach now. God bless you.